The soil under the old apple tree was soft from the night's rain. Little Bunny's whiskers touched the damp grass as he sniffed the air. Something sweet was coming from the farmhouse window. Something warm. Something that smelled like autumn in a jar. He had never been inside the apple orchard jam shop. But every morning, he watched old Farmer Thomas carry baskets of apples from the orchard to the small wooden building beside the barn. The door always creaked. The smell always drifted out, and little Bunny always wondered what happened inside. This morning, the dew was still heavy on the leaves. The sun was just touching the top of the barn roof, and the jam shop door was open. Little Bunny took one step closer, then another. The floor inside was wood, worn smooth by years of walking. Shelves lined every wall. Jars stood in rows like small soldiers, each one filled with something golden, something red, something deep and dark. He could see the apples inside. Not whole, not round, but broken into pieces, cooked into something
already,
new.
Little one?
A voice
It's
came from
almost
behind the
ready.
counter. "You've come to see how it's made, have you?" It was old Farmer Thomas. His hands were flour dusted.
Just how Mom
His
used to
apron
make
had a stain shaped like a map.
It smells wonderful.
Little
in
Bunny
here,
did not
doesn't
run.
it? You should come in.
He stayed still, because the voice was soft.
You know, this
Apple jam?
takes me back.
Said old Farmer
It's
Thomas.
truly special.
Is the oldest secret on this farm. Older than the barn. Older than the fence. Older than me. He lifted a jar from the shelf. The light through the window
Here you are, Grandpa.
turned it amber.
Thank you so much.
Would you
little
like to
one.
know what happens inside? The first surprise was
these.
this.
I found them all
The
by
apples
creek.
were not picked
They'll
from the
make
tree.
wonderful jam, little one.
Old Farmer Thomas pointed to the ground beneath the apple tree. The best apples are the ones that fall, the ones that hit the soil, the ones the sun touches all day. Little Bunny looked at the ground. There were apples there lying in the grass. Some were bruised. Some had tiny bites from birds. "Those apples," said the farmer, "have the most sugar. They have the most taste. The ones that stay on the branch stay hard and green. The ones that let go, they become something sweet." He picked one up. It was soft in his hand. The ground tells the apple when it is ready. Not the branch. Not the sun.
You know,
The
this
ground.
apple jam takes me back.
Little Bunny
It's
touched the
truly
apple with his
special.
paw. It gave under his fur. If you have ever felt something soft and ready under your paw, you know the kind of knowing Little Bunny felt. Subscribe to walk through more farm secrets with us in the next story. And in the comments, tell us with one word, what does the ground mean to you? Perhaps fallen or ready? The second surprise came when they walked back to the jam shop. There was a pot. A big one. Copper-colored. Heavy. Old Farmer Thomas filled it with the fallen apples. Then he added water. Not too much. Just enough to cover the bottom. Then he lit a fire. "The fire is slow," he said. "Not a rush. A slow heat that lets the apple remember it was once in the sun." Little Bunny watched the pot. At first, nothing happened. The apples just sat there, floating.
It smells wonderful in
Quiet.
here, doesn't it? You should
Then the
come
water
in.
began to steam. The apples began to move. The color began to change. "You cannot rush a jam," said the farmer. "If you rush it, it becomes clear. Thin,
Ah,
like water
this is
trying to
just
be
how
honey.
Mom used to make it.
But if you wait, if you let the heat speak to the apples slowly, then it becomes thick. It becomes something that spreads on bread and tastes like the whole season." He stirred with a wooden spoon. The sound was slow, regular, like a heartbeat in the quiet room. Little Bunny noticed something he had never noticed before. The smell was changing. It was sweet, yes, but it was also deep, like earth, like wood, like the bark of the old apple tree after rain. If you have ever smelled something cooking and felt your whole body relax, you know what Little Bunny felt. The worry of the morning left his shoulders. His breathing slowed. His ears lowered.
Keep an eye on this, my dear. Just a few more
The smell
minutes.
comes from the
Wow,
skin,
it's so beautiful.
And
said the
nearly
farmer.
done, just like the jam you made.
The peel of the apple holds the memory of the sun. When the heat touches it, the memory leaves the apple and goes into the air. He lifted the spoon. Golden drip fell back into the pot. That's why jam tastes better than fresh fruit, because the fire unlocks the memory. Little Bunny thought about that. A memory in a jar. A memory you could eat. The pot boiled. The farmer turned down the heat. The bubbles became smaller, slower. The room filled with steam that smelled like October. Old Farmer Thomas reached for a small bag on the shelf. He opened it. Inside was something white. Granular. Fine. Sugar, he said. He poured it slowly into the pot. Not all at once. A stream. A thin river of white disappearing into the gold. Sugar does not make it sweet, he said. Sugar makes it stay. Sugar holds the memory still. Without sugar, the apple would forget. The jam would spoil. Little Bunny watched the sugar dissolve. The color brightened. The shine deepened. In old farm kitchens, said the farmer, they believed the sugar sealed the story, that each jar held the day it was made, that when you opened it in winter, you could taste the autumn morning. Little Bunny looked at the jars on the shelf. They were not just food. They were time, captured. That moment when Little Bunny saw time in a jar is what this channel
What is that one,
holds.
Grandma? That is the forest
Subscribe to
spirit,
keep discovering
dear.
the stories
It
sealed in
sleeps
every
beneath
season.
the roots.
And in the comments, tell us, what memory would you seal in a jar? Perhaps a morning, a smell, a moment with someone you love. The farmer took the pot off the fire. He let it rest. The bubbles stopped. The surface became still. A skin began to form on top. This is the waiting part,
Remember to
he said.
let it cool, little one.
The hardest part,
It will be perfect.
because the jam wants to be eaten now. But it is not ready. It must learn to be still. Little Bunny sat on the wooden floor. He did not fidget. He did not scratch. He just watched. The steam rose. The light faded. The room grew quieter. If you have ever wanted something so badly you could barely breathe, you know how Little Bunny felt? The jam was right there, warm, shiny, perfect. But it was not ready. And there is nothing you can do when something is not ready except wait. After the jam cooled, the farmer ladled it into jars. Glass jars with metal lids. He filled each one almost to the top, leaving a tiny space. The space is for the sound, he said. Little Bunny tilted his head. When the jar cools, the lid will pop. A soft sound, like a secret closing. That sound means the jam is sealed, that it will keep, that it will last through the cold months. He pressed the lid down. The jar sat on the counter, quiet, waiting. Then came the pop. A small, sharp sound, like a stone dropping into water. "There," said the farmer. "That jar is finished. It will not open again until someone wants autumn in the middle of winter. Stay with little Bunny. This is where it becomes real. The jar is done. But the story is not." Little Bunny touched the jar with his paw. The glass was warm. Not hot,
Yes, the jam
warm
is
like the
ready
sun
now,
on fur.
little one.
"You want to taste it, don't you?" asked the farmer.
Just right.
Little Bunny nodded. The farmer took a small spoon. He opened the jar. The pop sound again, but backwards. The lid lifted. The smell came out fresh. He dipped the spoon into the gold. Lifted it. An amber drip fell back. Then he held the spoon in front of little Bunny.
Isn't that yummy? You
The
like
jam
it,
was
don't
not
you?
thick like honey. It was soft. It held together but moved slowly. Tiny pieces of apple, cooked until they were tender, sat suspended in the gold. Little Bunny licked it. The taste came slowly. First sweet, then deep, then something else. Something that tasted like the tree, like the dirt around its roots, like the rain that had fallen the night before, like the morning dew still wet on the grass. If you have ever tasted something that reminded you of a place, you know what little Bunny felt. This was not just jam. It was the orchard. It was autumn. It was the whole farm, reduced into one spoonful. Old Farmer Thomas sealed the jar again. "That one is yours," he said. "Thank you for helping stir." Little Bunny did not know he had helped. He had only watched. He had only waited. But the farmer smiled. "You stayed," he said. "That is the hardest part of making jam. Staying. Most people leave before the pop." Little Bunny held the jar in his paws. It was small, heavy, perfectly warm. Outside, the afternoon sun cast long shadows. The apple tree stood quiet. The grass was dry now. The dew had gone. Little Bunny carried the jar home to his nest in the hay. He placed it beside his sleeping spot. The light through the glass cast a golden glow on the straw. Old Farmer Thomas once told a neighbor that the best jam is never the first batch. It is the one made after the cook learns to wait. The one made after the fire is understood. The one made with apples that fell willingly, not apples that were taken. The neighbor did not understand. But little Bunny did. He touched the jar with his nose. The glass was cool now. The pop had sealed the morning inside. And somewhere, in a corner of the farm, another apple was falling from the tree, preparing for its turn in the pot, preparing to become something that would last through winter. When the moon rose, little Bunny curled beside his jar. The farm was quiet. The cows were sleeping. The barn was dark. If you have ever held something you made yourself, you know the feeling. It is not pride. It is something quieter. A satisfaction that sits in your chest like a stone settling into mud. Little Bunny closed his eyes, his whiskers drooped. His breathing slowed. In the morning, he would eat the jam on a piece of bread. But that was for tomorrow. For now, he slept. The jar sat beside him, the memory of autumn held inside, and the stars above Green Meadow Farm watched over the shop, the tree, the soil, and the small creature who had learned the secret of the pop. The wind moved through the hay, carrying the smell of dry grass and distant rain. Little Bunny's paw rested on the jar, his breathing slow and even. The jam was not just jam anymore. It was proof that he had stayed, that he had watched the fire, listened to the pop, understood the waiting. Old Farmer Thomas once told a story about the first jar of jam ever made on the farm. It was autumn many years ago. The apples were falling. The fire was lit. And the farmer's own grandfather had stood in this same room, stirring the same copper pot, waiting for the same pop. That jar lasted through 3 winters. It was opened on the coldest night, when snow covered the ground and the farm was silent. The taste of the autumn morning returned. The tree that had dropped those apples was long gone, but the jam remembered. That is the truth of a sealed jar. It does not spoil. It does not forget. It waits. And now the jar is waiting. Little Bunny is sleeping. But you are still here. And the next story is already falling from the tree. Subscribe so the story reaches your nest. And in the comments, leave the word pop if you have ever stayed through the hardest part. Little Bunny did not know this story, but his whiskers twitched in his sleep, as if he could smell the old jam, the old fire, the old waiting. The hay rustled, the barn creaked. Somewhere, a mouse shifted in the grain, and the jar sat warm beside the sleeping bunny, holding the memory of one morning, one fire, one pop, sealed forever.